You know, the British architecture is so fucking ugly, typically, and yours isn't. Welcome to the Zen Properties Podcast, a podcast about building long-term wealth and cash-flowing businesses through real estate. Dive into interviews with industry legends, content packed with actionable tips and relaxed banter. We are Mac and Maggie Daring. Please enjoy the show. Another week of Zen Properties Podcast. Welcome everyone. It's Mac and Maggie from Zen Properties. Maggie, how are you doing?
Yeah, really good. How are you guys?
Very good, thank you very much. But today we have a special guest. I will do a quick intro first. So today we are joined by Ben Richards, someone I genuinely love both professionally and personally. Ben is the founder of Aura Architecture and Interiors, a design-led RIBA-chartered practice. I got it right this time. Working closely with SME developers to create homes that actually stack up, commercially and architecturally. Before Aura, Ben spent years deep in technical side of the industry, working with architects, engineers, and major house builders. So he understands projects from the inside out, not just from the drawing board. He's also a co-host of XP Property podcast with Jack Giggans, which I genuinely love as well. It's one of my favorite podcasts. It's amazing. It's straight talking, practical, absolutely no bullshit. On top of that, Ben's thoughtful, sharp as a katana, and one of the most trustworthy people I know in the SME development space. Really looking forward to this one, Ben. Thank you very much for joining us. I should also add that on top of the XP Property podcast and on top of the Aura Architectures, Ben also is like part of the XP Property, which is a massive development. Well, massive in comparison to small guys like us, and they smash it on all fronts. So Ben, thank you very much for donating your time again. How are you doing, sir?
Thank you for having me. No, amazing. I couldn't have written that intro better myself. So thanks very much.
You're welcome. I spent a proper time scanning through your website and scanning through your socials. So yes, please feel stalked right now.
Thank you. Yeah, good to get those get that algorithm going, right?
Absolutely.
Get the stats up.
So how is everyone? We hear that you've just been to Dubai, haven't you?
Yes,
how are you feeling?
It was a business stroke family trip. So we were out there for 6 nights. I had 2 days of pure business, which I'm actually knackered from, to be honest. I came back in the evenings absolutely shot. One of the days was at a prop tech event. So like an exhibition, and then the following day was catching up with a few sort of expats that I know from the UK that have moved out there, just catching up on things and some new contacts as well as old. So yeah, it was great. And then water parks and swimming pools and whatnot with the kids. So yeah, a mix of both.
It's I don't know what to do, because now since you mentioned Dubai, I want to just talk about Dubai right now and just gather more information.
It's a cool place.
Just very quickly, all positive from the experts? Are they happy there?
Yeah, I mean, they love it.
Regrets?
There's a guy that moved over there in September that I know from Clapham, where my architecture practice is based. He runs a maintenance company. He still runs that maintenance company in the UK, but he's moved the family over. And he has no regrets. He says the kids absolutely love it. Obviously, the weather's a lot nicer. There's a positivity around it that the UK just doesn't have at the moment. So you could feel that out there. Everyone's buzzing about it. The lifestyle, the money, the flashness. I mean, it's not for everyone, but it's interesting to see the stark contrast between the UK and over there.
But Ben, would you feel comfortable walking there in a t-shirt that you buy as a pack of 3 in River Island for $4.90 a piece, and stretchy yoga trousers and probably no socks and flip-flops?
Hippie.
That's pretty much what people wear. You've got people rocking up in that in their business meetings. Yeah, I mean, when I asked one of the guys that's been out there for a while, I was like, I don't really know. I'm going to this prop tech event. I'm meeting a few people. What do I wear? And he was like, just wear a basic non-branded t-shirt, chinos, and a blazer or something like that. And that's pretty much how business is done. Yeah, I did think it was interesting.
Yeah, because we in our head is more pretentious, right? We think, oh, it's all flashy and
yeah. There's still a lot of supercars. There's a lot of supercars around. There's still a lot of money. You know, you can see it's there.
But man, imagine no income tax. Would you have a supercar?
Yeah, I mean, my mate lived out there in 17 years ago, and this was the second time I've been. The first time was 17 years ago to visit my friend, and obviously it's changed massively in those 17 years. But you know, to be out there for 2 years on tax-free, kind of, you know, still earning really, really good salary anyway. You know, it's no wonder why people don't want to leave and come back to the cold and wet weather of the UK. Like, I dropped it on London Heathrow on Sunday, and it was cold, miserable, wet, and just like, you know, it's
welcome home.
It makes you think.
Makes you, yeah. That's very politely said. But like, when it comes to raw nature and the awesomeness of the place where you walk down the beach and, like, you know, it's not like a natural place. It's a freaking desert, right?
It's very, very much, you know, man-made. Everything is man-made. You know, I said to my wife, like, would you want to live over here? And she's like, well, not really. Like, she prefers that natural. You know, we've been to lots of places in the world, New Zealand, Patagonia, you know, South America, and, you know, all those places have lush green, natural kind of areas. This is very much man-made, and you can tell it's man-made, but it's still,
is it still as artificial as Las Vegas?
Nowhere near as artificial as Las Vegas. No,
beautiful.
That is pure cheese, and yeah, good fun though. You know, given my background with poker,
I've got a proposition for you. If you move to Sardinia, we move with you
to Sardinia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Considering, man, like
that's more raw, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
So we've done the research about the international schools in Sardinia.
Okay.
There's one that has a very good reputation. It's called SIS, Sardinia International School. A very elaborate name, but it's great. It's near Olbia. Like, flights to the UK, they are cheap as crap, like 30 quid, and they run like all year round. They're not even seasonal. The housing, like, selling this piece of crap house, it's not bad, right? Like, you know, it's 5-bedroom here, like in the UK, but in Northampton or outskirts, so it's like not too expensive, like $500,000 for a house, like a family house, where I have a small driveway where I want to buy a Tesla and I want to charge it on my driveway. Currently, I don't even have my car on the driveway, because if I do it, then I can't get my wheelie bins out because it's like so narrow between the houses.
Yeah.
So it pisses me off. Like, for that, you can buy like 7-bedroom, 2 garages overlooking the sea in a posh area of Sardinia, which is like, you know, the Costa Smeralda, which is one of the nicest area there. So the weather is absolutely smashing throughout the year. Like, now in the winter, it's like roughly like 14, 16 degrees. So it's not super hot, like for Dubai standards, but it's still livable. And in summers are amazing. It's not like 50 degrees, it's 30, 35. And it's just like amazing all year round. So I'm quite in love. So
I'm sold. My wife would much prefer that than Dubai.
Yeah, and a lot of expats and like good quality people, and naturally Sardinia is striking. It's shocking. Like, the beaches, they are the best in the world. They are the best in the world. I'm not exaggerating. It's like they are picturesque to the point where you just like feel like you are in a dream.
Yeah, but they're equivalent to like Asia, like any Asia, Philippines, right?
Yeah. Honestly,
beaches,
shocking. It's shocking.
And very close flight-wise to Europe. So I wonder how your friend is doing. Like, presumably, since he's got a business still in the UK, that, you know, your friend who lives in Dubai now, he would have to fly back once in a while, right?
Yeah, every now and again. I mean, he tries not to be honest. You know, he has built a good team around him. He's got 12 people in the office that sort of sustains the business. You know, he's running his business on a dashboard, you know, and that's how it should be from that sort of, you know, CEO type thing.
If you can streamline, that's fantastic.
It is. Okay, so let's stop talking about dreams and let's talk about reality.
Yeah, right. So back to the podcast.
Back to reality.
So let's just start from the very beginning. How did you end up in architecture and property? Was this always your plan? Was that the background? Did you go to uni? You know, was that your sort of plan since very early on, or was it more of a later thing?
I did the best work experience when I was 16 at school that I could ever think of. I went to work for my dad's mate, who's an accountant, because at the time I thought that accountancy was the way forward. I'm good at maths, I like money, you know, finances, it's all good. Worst experience of my life. It was the most boring 2 weeks that I've ever gone through, and I quickly realised that I needed something way more creative. So although I thought that was the direction of travel, that 2 weeks was like the turning point of there's no way I'm going down this route. But I'd always done things like graphic design, product design. That was the sort of creativity coming out, and that sort of ran through really. So at college I did graphic design, maths, further maths, physics, so very technically minded, but the graphic design and product design side of things gave me that bit of creativity. And I've always loved property. Like, I've always loved building things, Lego as a kid, and like when I was 4 or 5 years old, I was building like 3D puzzles. That was what I'd get for Christmas, and by New Year I've built the Big Ben and all that sort of stuff. So I've always been, creative. I always loved building stuff. So property was always kind of the destination, really.
What's your favorite Lego set?
Sorry?
What's your favorite Lego set?
What's my favorite?
Lego set.
Oh, I mean, what have I done? It's like proper old school stuff. What my kids have nowadays is insane. Like, he's been building dinosaurs on the table over the last couple of weeks, like space shuttles and all sorts. So I feel like I'm reliving those moments with my 5-year-old now, and that's how things sort of progress. So I'm almost getting angry at him. It's like, no, it clearly doesn't go there. What are you doing? Like, you're only 5 years old, but you should know this.
That sounds familiar.
But that's definitely where it all started. And then architectural engineering is what I studied at uni. So although I like being creative, I can't ignore that technical side of problem solving and what I love, over this side. And doing a straight architecture course for me, which is like a 7-year like even back then, which was 2007, I guess, when I first went to uni. Even at that point, I was looking at the RIBA process, the RIBA architecture.
You went to uni in 2007. I thought we were like similar age.
I think so. I'm 40. Yeah.
I am 40 as well. So how come I went to uni in 2004?
Or maybe it was 2006. I don't know. Anyway, I think I graduated in 2015. I had a gap year between college and uni where I worked.
Fair play.
And I was a 4-year course, so maybe it was 2006. Even then, like with the RIBA process, I felt like it was massively like outdated. It doesn't need to be 7 years to do the architecture program as far as I'm concerned. So I found there's only 2 unis in the UK that did architectural engineering as a degree. It was in Leeds, or it was in Cardiff. No way in hell I'm going up to Leeds. And Cardiff seemed like a good solution. It was only an hour and a half from my hometown at the time. So yeah, architectural engineering, 4-year degree, masters. At that time, I was one of not many sort of family members that even went to university. Like I didn't realize at the time that most people do like a 3 years bachelor's, then they choose to do a master's. But I just signed up to a master's. I didn't even know that was a thing. So it wasn't really until 3rd year I was speaking to some of the course mates. I was like, "You're leaving this year? Like, are you not doing for 4 years?" Like, no, I'm not doing a master's. I didn't know that was a choice. So yeah, did that, and then basically worked for small architectural practice, doing planning drawings, building regulation packages. I was basically like a CAD monkey, like just churning out packages of information. I think in the 4 years I worked for that company, I visited 3 sites and saw the projects like on site with 3 of them. I probably did hundreds of packages, but only went on site 3 times. So I learned a lot. It was a massive kind of education in how the planning process works, understanding the technicalities of building regulations, and learning how that all, home extensions, new builds, all that type of stuff. Got bored, went to the Berkeley Group in London, wanted a new challenge, I guess. I felt like I'd kind of done enough of the smaller stuff, working on £50,000 home extensions. And then I went to the Berkeley Group, where I'm doing literally almost £1 billion scheme in Vauxhall 9 Elms, where it's double basements, spas, basements, the whole footprint of the site, 26-story towers. It was stark contrast, but I learned a huge amount in the 3 years I was working there, and ultimately that gave me the itchy feet to start doing my own development stuff. And May 2017 is when I jumped ship from the Berkeley Group to start my own businesses.
So that was after seven years, was it? 4 and 3.
Yeah, four in the small practice, 3 in the Berkeley Group.
Well done, right?
Yeah, 7. It's quite quick. Quite quick.
And what did make you make that shift Why did you even think about it?
I think I'd literally always, I think probably when I was 10 years old, I knew that I would have my own business. Like I'd always had that entrepreneurial kind of
Where did they get that
spirit.
from? How about your family?
Was it something that was spoken about in your house?
Definitely not my family. Like my mum and my dad had always worked in, literally like warehousing, Sainsbury's on the deli. It's like they're very, very working class background. But I definitely, I think, saw some of my sort of family friends that run their own businesses and thought, that for me seems, seems like the way to go. And I think from an early age, it was always going to happen. It was just a matter of time. And I think the time was right in 2017. Basically project managed on evenings and weekends whilst working for the Berkeley Group, my first property development. So I bought an end terrace property with a garden plot, got planning approval for a 2-bedroom new build house on the side of it. And I delivered that in 4 months from, the ground up and refinanced it after 6 months. So like I had a bridging loan that was costing me 1.5% a month at the time. I'd never done that. I was like, it was the only people that offered me the money. So I just had to take it at 1.5%. Looking back now, I'm like, that's insane, rates. But they were the only ones, that gave me the money basically. So managed to, after 6 months, refinance, get off the bridge onto a commercial mortgage. I held that new build property in my rental portfolio for 4 or 5 years. I think I only sold it a couple of years ago. But that gave me basically refinanced all of my money out, plus about 40 grand in my back pocket to be like, this is a safety net now for doing my own thing. And literally, I think I refinanced on the Friday. I wrote my letter of resignation at the weekend. I went in Monday and said, there you go, I'm off. And that was it really. That was the start of Aura. I wanted to jump into a business that I knew that I could almost prove to myself that I could grow. And as a faster cash flowing business, and this is something that if you're tuning into this, I would implore you, if you're trying to go into property development, to have some sort of faster cash flowing business that you run alongside the development stuff, because to just run a development business and get that off the ground and get that started is hugely intensive in terms of funding, very time consuming in terms of seeing the return on those funds. You might not
that then, like when you decided to jump ships several years ago?
Did you know that?
You were motivated clearly by the challenge, and it was like a thrill to you, amazing feeling. So I get that. You're an entrepreneur. I get that. You were motivated by money, so you can make lump sums of money quicker. And you have no gap in no cap in earning. You can earn as much as you want, really, and it scales. So that's amazing. But were you also motivated by the time that you put into work? Were you planning on working more or less when you were switching from the corporate world to your own business?
Oh, I mean, I've jumped from a 9 till 5 to a 24/7. I think that's basically what businesses are and entrepreneurship is. I work way more, yeah. But I've always, no matter who I've worked for, I started working for Sainsbury's when I was 16, stacking shelves and on the tills and all this sort of stuff. Even at that point, I would work my socks off. Like it's my company. Even though it's not my company, I'm still working as if it is. And that's just always been my mentality. Like, and that's part of, I think, when I did jump ship from the Berkeley Group, everyone has a bit of an ego. I had an ego where I wanted to prove to myself that I could build a small architectural practice way better than the one I left after, before the Berkeley Group. Because I was at that company. I was the first person that they employed. I went to visit. I found them online. I really liked what they did. I went to find them at a Grand Designs live exhibition. I gave them my CV there, and then I started having a chat with them. I was the first person they employed. I saw that business stagnate for 4 years. I wanted to do. I was sort of constantly trying to suggest, why aren't you out networking more? Why aren't you building the business? Why aren't you doing this? And I was getting frustrated because it's not even my business, but I'm sort of seeing ways in which I feel like they're not as good a business as they can be. And it was the same thing, and I think I mentioned this in a podcast last week. A classic technician's mentality. They were structural engineers. They set up the business. It was 2 guys. But they basically got stuck doing the business, and they never grew. It was, it got to, I think, 4 people when I was there. And I don't think there are any more than 4 people now. They're constantly chasing their tails.
It is difficult though, like for a person that always was running business like this, to make the jump to start delegating tasks. Delegating tasks for me personally is extremely difficult because I'm very OCD, I'm very detailed, and I find like most people are not like me, so it's very difficult, right? And then like structuring your business around what you do in a way where you don't spend so much time doing the business things like invoices, reports, sheets, and all this stuff. It's relentless, right? Like people do not appreciate how much time it takes to start your business first, then to go through this bullshit of like overspending your time on stuff that is not optimized yet, and then optimizing that stuff, and then having a streamlined business where you can focus on growing the business and not working in the business. It's extremely difficult, isn't it?
It is massively difficult, but nobody said business is easy. And in fact, it rarely is. It's completely the opposite. It is challenging. It is an absolute roller coaster of emotions. You've got to learn way more new skills than I think you ever realized you needed to have. And it is very difficult. And I think it's even more difficult for technicians, like I've just mentioned, like your architects, your engineers, your surveyors, your party wall surveyors, everyone that has a skill set in a technical, role where they're very good technically at doing the do. It is a completely different skill set running a business, to step away, helicopter view and look at how things are going to grow, how the business operates, and effectively remove yourself from the day to day. And that was the guiding light for me, really, in the early stages. With Aura, I wanted to build the business as fast as possible to a point where I can remove myself so that I could focus more on the developments. And if maybe I didn't have that guiding light or my want and need to do more developments, I may still be on the drawing board with Aura. I might not have, grown the business as fast because I am that technician by training. I've had to learn the skills and the business sort of business skill set and entrepreneurial sort of skill set to grow the businesses away and outside of that technical understanding.
Yeah. So to tell us more about what did you grow in terms of Aura? Obviously, it's been quite a few years now. What are the strengths of that business, you think, and how do you make that company a slightly different from the competition?
Yeah,
I mean that's a difficult question.
But is it really? Can I tell you how I see your company?
Yeah, go for it.
It's like I look at other architectural practices, I look at their logos, I look at their documents they produce, I look at their designs, both interior and exterior, architecture and interior design, and it feels like clunky, typically. It feels like it not thought through. It feels like a tick box exercise, and everything is low-ish quality, and it's bland, and it's boring, and it's like borderline offensive. Whereas when I think about Aura, you have very expensive taste. The choice of your materials is absolutely shocking good. It's amazing to look at. Interior design is spot on. Your bespoke kitchens, the choice of the floors and the colors on the walls with the kitchens.
The palette you use, it's amazing.
It's amazing. And also it's very elegant. It's very modern, but with traditional twist as well. So it's not overwhelming. It's not like new Jaguar. It's like, it's like something that people would actually like to live in. All the choice of your skylights, all the choice of your lights in the ceiling, like these the spotlights that are a little bit like deeper in, so you don't the seated frames, the thin frame windows, sliding doors, big pieces of glass that don't look concealed. They look very posh because typically the windows that have just a piece of glass without this thing is like in the middle. They look like in a cheap council house, but the windows that you select with the thin black frames, typically they are extremely posh, extremely clean. And I love it to be. It's like the back extension that you're doing.
You're so excited.
They're great to look at. And I just imagine myself living there and using that back extension all the time because it's just so freaking great, right? So
I need to use this as a video testimonial on our website.
Please do, man. Please do. That's my honest feelings when I research what Aura does, okay?
That is kind of the first feel we've had when we've had a quick look at your website, more like in detail, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. And that's exactly the type of response that we're looking for. If you look at the stuff that we did maybe 5-6 years ago when we first started, you have to start somewhere. And we did a lot of basic rear extensions on South London terrace houses where it's a set of bifold doors, 2 Velux windows, and a pitched roof. That's the bog standard kind of route. We've tried over the last 3 or 4 years to transition away from that, to do more interesting schemes. When I moved up to St Albans 5 years ago, because we're based in Clapham, our office is still in Clapham, so the Southwest London housing stock is very similar. So we'll do a lot of side return extensions with rear extensions, dormer extensions with outriggers. That's very similar types of projects. Whereas I think when we started broadening our horizons to the home counties, to Greater London, where you've got more bigger detached houses, semi-detached houses, we can do a lot more with the properties. We were able to kind of get those sort of creative juices flowing a little bit more, do something a little bit more creative. And ultimately, I guess over the last sort of 5 or 6 years, our average contract value of works with our clients has probably moved from £150,000 6 years ago to maybe £500,000, £600,000 for a typical type of project that Aura works on nowadays, or wants to work on. And that has been difficult, because I think when I started, you do sort of take what you can get, and you try to win as much work as you possibly can. And if you start in those smaller projects, it's harder to then jump into the larger ones, because people can't see the track record in the larger ones. So a client almost has to kind of give you the opportunity to express yourself, to do something more creative, do something bigger. And I'm really happy and glad that over the last 2 to 3 years, a lot of our clients have honoured us with that opportunity, because they have, and we've got some amazing designs that we sort of showcase on our YouTube channels nowadays. I do a lot of video tours of some of the finished articles, and I'm super happy with how the team perform in kind of designing those schemes. It does look great. So thank you. It's good that comes across. That it
doesn't look British, to be honest. The British architecture is so fucking ugly, typically. And yours isn't.
I think that's something that we've been very set on from day one. It's when you go to some architectural practice websites, there's a very clear theme or way in which they design, and that's great for some people, because some people like have you heard of Ascot design? That they're a big architectural practice in Ascot, Windsor, Virginia Water. They do neo-Georgian 10,000 square foot mansions, that type of thing. Most of their schemes are almost a copy paste. I've seen so many floor plans from them, so many front elevations from them. It's they've probably got a database of previous projects where they just copy paste and charge the client 20 grand for the pleasure, but they've built that reputation within that space. What we do as Aura is ultimately it's your property that we're designing. We want that property to be a reflection of how you want to live in the space, how what your style is, and clients that allow us to push the boundaries a little bit and suggest things that maybe slightly outside of where they would have thought is great. That's brilliant. But we don't have a set style of architecture. We will if you look at our website, we've got all sorts. We've got traditional, we've got modern, you've got we've just done a recent scheme just down the road from me in St Albans, where it's three massive arches with Crittall style doors.
It looks amazing.
We've got a scheme in Bromley, which is like white render, red zinc, large glazing. And it's
what's the Bromley like for the South African couple with like the green
Maple
space
Lodge
on top of the extension?
Yeah, that's the one that had that massive picture frame window that is about.
So good, man.
I think it's 5 meters by 2.5 meters. It's massive. They had to crane it over the house. So there was a lot of squeaky bums when that was happening. It's 500 kgs of glass, half a ton of glass that's being lifted over into position. But it looks amazing, and that's what they wanted. They wanted uninterrupted views out to their garden, and you can only achieve that with one single piece of glass. So it's things like that when a client's open and willing to spend the money on that type of thing, it's amazing, because we can bring that to life.
Okay, so to your point that you just mentioned, and working with your customers and all, would you mind talking us through, or talking through your future customers, the exact steps when working with Aura, from design and from a development and then design?
Sure. I mean, we from a client perspective, our ideal client, our avatar client, however you want to see it, is somebody with a growing family. They've moved into a new property. They've just bought a new property. They want to transform the whole house. They don't just want to do a rear extension. They want to go up. They want to go out. They want to go down with a basement, for example. They want to move out for 9 months, come back to a brand spanking new house that's been architecturally designed, interior designed by us, and have a fantastic family for property for the next 15, 20 years with their family growing up in it. That is definitely our sort of avatar type client. Our process normally works or starts with a consultation, like most architects do. I think one thing that we've done very sensibly over the last however long, until recently actually, is charge for our consultations. We charge 250 quid to go to somebody's home, talk them through ideas, talk them through the process. And some architects won't do that. They'll just do it for free because they need the work. We value our time, we value our input and our design understanding and understanding of the process. And ultimately, we think that 250 quid is cheap for the value that you get from those initial
It's very cheap. So do you really give your clients, for this 250, you go to their house, you walk around for the first time, and then you come up with ideas on the spot, like I would do window here, extension here, move this there, remove this wall, do the lighting like this, and you give them this idea. So you have 250 worth of a consultation where you have pretty much all the ideas for the design.
It's ultimately, an idea, a chance for us to understand the client's brief more, to understand how they live in the space, because that obviously directs, that's the direction of travel that we go with the design. It's a chance to explain the process to clients, because more often than not, they don't understand how the process works. They just think, they just need to get a builder in and they'll crack on and do it. That's just couldn't be further from the truth. So there's a whole process that you have to go through. Yes, we'll be able to come up with ideas. We might sketch a few ideas whilst we're there, bring up potentially projects that we've done historically that can sort of showcase some of the ideas that we're presenting forward and get a gauge of kind of what they like, what they don't like. It's a good hour and a half of value add as far as I'm concerned. We can do video calls, so the consultation will either be a home consultation where we meet them on site, or it will be a video consultation, which is 75 quid plus VAT. Again, it doesn't really cover the architect's time, but it's something. It's a gesture whereby it means the client is then taking us seriously. And I think I've used it over the last 5-6 years as almost like a filtering process as well. If a client is not willing to spend £250 plus VAT for an hour and a half of our time, they're probably not the type of client that we want to work with longer term. Mm-hmm. So it's a good qualifier for us as well. So it starts with the consultation. We'll gauge the brief and understanding of what the client wants. Our next phase will be a concept and feasibility phase. So we'll take the understanding of their brief, how they live in the space. We will then generate a concept package where it generally is 3 to 4 ideas. So 3 to 4 floor plans, 3 to 4 elevations, 3 to 4 accompanying those options. There'll be kind of precedent imagery for materials or again, previous examples of things we've done in the past that they might like to introduce. And what normally happens is they really like one option as this one is standing out to me, but they like this bit and this bit and this bit from the other ones that they can feed into it. And that's, the next phase is then kind of refining those concept designs. So by the end of that concept design process, we've whittled down to a scheme that the client's really happy with. It's got a full package of floor plans, elevations, roof plans, everything that is needed from a package perspective. What we'll then do in the next phase is prepare for the planning process. So that's where we will add maybe a design and access statement, a site and location plan, all of the requirements that are needed from a planning submission perspective, and we'll package
typically a full planning, Ben?
Sorry?
Or PD? Typically a full planning or a PD?
Depends. Most of the time with the types of projects that we work on, it's full planning, because it's a lot of stuff that we're doing. If it's got a basement, we'll need a basement impact assessment. We'll need to get other consultants on board. If it's extending out towards a row of trees, there might be a tree assessment that's needed for the submission. So we'll coordinate all of those external reports.
How much time should you allow for the planning phase?
It never happens in 8 weeks. I'd say probably 16 weeks nowadays. And in reality, probably 5 to 6 weeks for us through that process. So from instruction to getting a full planning package ready for submission is probably 5 to 6 weeks, depending on how fast the client gets back to us, how fast we can nail down the type of concept that we go to. It's probably worth saying that in terms of Aura's makeup, we have about 70% of our clients are private residential clients. So that's home extensions, families looking to grow, loft extensions, kitchen extensions, basement extensions, that type of stuff. The remaining 30% is with investors and developers. So working with people like XP Property who are converting an office into residential, or have a new build, greenfield land site where they're building 14 houses, or it's a constrained, quirky little site in South London where they're knocking down some garages and building a new home, a one-off, bespoke new build type thing. 70-30 split between kind of private resi and developers.
Okay.
So we've submitted the planning application. Once planning application's been approved, or even before, if they want to go forward at risk, we'll move forward with the building regulations and detailed design packages. And we loosely follow the RIBA stages. So there's RIBA stages, 1 to 7 or 0 to 7. But it doesn't really mean a lot to clients. I think talking about USPs, like you were talking about earlier, like I've tried to make our business as understandable from a layman's perspective as possible, because the RIBA stages mean absolutely nothing to Joe Bloggs who just wants to extend their home. So breaking it down into concept, planning, this is the planning process. Then you'll need building regulations. So it's a big building regulations pack. Building regulations only get you so far in terms of constructability. So the next stage is detailed design. That'll give you the mechanical and electrical layouts, a bit of joinery detail, that extra level of detail that a contractor is going to need to tender the package. A contractor can tender against a building regulation package, but it's not going to have all the finishes involved. They're not going to know, where floor finishes are going to be tiled or carpet, or what the bathrooms are going to look like. So our detailed design package is like a next level of detail that gets you to a full consolidated tender package ready to go out to builders. And that's the next step, going out to builders. So running a tender process.
Do you provide it? Do you have two packages, or do you only provide one full-on all-inclusive package?
Most of the time, clients will want both packages because they realise that the benefit, and there'll be a lot of, and this is where the difficulty comes in the industry. You've got a lot of one-man bands, sat in their pants in their home office, who could knock out a building regulation package for 1,500 quid, for a four-bedroom house extension, loft conversion, whatever it is. That might get you building regs approval. That might be fine for some contractors to just crack on and start building. But I guarantee there'll be variations that won't include all of the information, construction specification of works that a builder is really going to need to properly quote for a project. So you're sort of flying by the seat of your pants, really, if you're just providing a building regulation package without a proper schedule of works, M&E layouts, joinery details, that type of stuff. So most of our clients, given the size of projects that we now do, they'll want the full package. It's rare that they just say, I just want building regs. And often if it's people just wanting the building regs package, it's often people that do have a lot of experience themselves already. They've done it a couple of times, or it's a developer where they just need the compliance side of things, which is the building regulation pack, and they'll deal with the contractor directly in terms of finishes and the more detailed design stuff. So.
Do you encourage your clients to add on some value to the property?
Massively, yeah. I mean, I will always look at it from, a return on investment perspective. It's slightly different when you have got clients that are just private clients that they just want the extra space. Like they don't, as long as it breaks even and they're not spending more than what the house is going to be worth, they don't really, not looking to make a margin on it. They just want to make sure that they're not losing money.
This episode is brought to you by Zen Properties, where we turn stress into success and bricks into passive income. We develop, convert and add serious value to property projects across the UK, from HMOs to serviced accommodation. If you're a private investor looking for a solid return, we offer 11 to 15% annual interest, fully assets backed, and with all legal costs on us. And if your business wants to get in front of a fast-growing property audience, you can sponsor an episode just like this one. Find us on zenproperties.uk.
But we've taken over projects. There's a project on our website in Camberwell where it's a lower ground floor and ground floor masonette. It's really cool, design. It's like a teal coloured green vertical tile. There's an oriel window that projects out. It's got lots of glazing. That project came to us because the client went to the original architect and said, we've got I think it was 120 grand budget at the time. And they went through the planning process, got planning approval, went to tender. Tenders came back at £300,000. And I was like, well, surely, like, I'm looking at this planning package, I'm thinking, this is 250 grand plus, like, without getting into the detail, there's no way this is going to meet your budget requirements. And they've spent loads of money up to that point and wasted loads of time to get to a stage where they can't build it and they can't move forward with their project, even though they've got planning approval. Like, that for me is sacrilege. Like, I can't, I never want to be in that position with a client. And I know I've lost business before where I've told a client it's going to cost them 300 grand and their budget is 150 grand. And they've gone out elsewhere. They've got someone cheap in to do some drawings. They've not been able to move forward because, lo and behold, the contractors have come back at 250 grand plus. And, I'd rather lose that work than say to them, yeah, sure, we can do that for you, and then end up designing something that we know is way out of their budget in the first place. Like, it can be quite tough. Like when scope creeps and scope increases and client wants you to do more, and actually, we know that they've got a bit more money behind them. They just told us it's 150 grand budget when it's more like 250 grand. But the one thing that I always tell clients is, like, you need to be honest with us here. Like, we can't work with you unless we know what you're actually looking to spend, because too many times I've gone to home consultations in the early days where I've said, okay, and what's your budget? What are you looking to spend? And, like, the husband will look at the wife and the wife will look at the husband and or we were told not to tell you, because you'll spend it all. I'm like, oh, that's just the worst advice I've ever heard in my life. So
it depends on who you work with, Ben. Like, with you, I would be upfront, but I wouldn't be that upfront with every contractor,
Yeah, well, contractors are different. Yeah, you tell them it's much lower, but when you've got somebody actually designing it for you, like, there's no point in telling me you've got 150 grand budget and we go off and design something that's that's not going to fit that. So I think, we always look to add value where we can. I think my background. If I'm working with any of our Aura clients directly, I much prefer to work with our developer clients because I am a developer, because I know that I can add huge amounts of value through that process, knowing the whole development life cycle, not just the design phase. And there are suggestions that I can make to save money, to add value, going down the permitted development route, using full planning applications to enhance schemes. Like, that's something we're very, very good at from an Aura perspective for developers. And we want to do more work with developers. I'd love that split to be more like 50-50 as opposed to sort of 70-30 in the sort of private client's favour.
So your goal, or your client's goal, your both common goal, is to do the extension, add more space, put a space that people they really want to live in around their lifestyles, without this entire thingy costing them more than the value added to the GDV of the house. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make financial sense to do that. It's been very challenging over the last 2.5 years because build costs through COVID right?
Escalated so much. My ops director actually messaged in the Aura WhatsApp group last night an article that basically says, things have started to really drop now because there's not enough work out there for contractors. So they're having to sharpen their pencils and get a bit more lean and reduce labour costs and in that type of stuff to win the work, because jobs are scarce, and we started seeing this 2 years ago. I was too slow to react, but when we start in our info@aurahomes.co.uk email inbox, start getting emails from contractors saying we want to be on your tender list. Here's our brochure. When they start reaching out to you for work, they're not busy enough to kind of sustain themselves. Through COVID, we didn't get any of those emails. They were like putting 40% margins on stuff because people were taking it, and it was a chance for that. It was the Wild West out there. Whereas for the last 2 years we've been getting emails like that where they've said, we want to be on your tender list, we want to work with you, basically saying we're short of work, can you add us to some tender lists?
Yeah. I guess that's in line with what's happening in the UK right now, with the economy, the whole economy, the politics and everything.
Look at what happens to your quotes for the construction that we are doing. It's like you start at 230, then you wait for 6 months for the planning to come through, and then this 230 becomes 270 because the change of material prices, and it's been just 6 months.
It's just materials, it's not labor, right?
No, crazy, right? And I'm not exaggerating. That's the differences in price that we are looking at when we make a decision to purchase a property versus when we are ready to start developing it, which is absolutely crazy. Speaking of finances, Ben, can you talk us through like an example or two examples of how much would working with Aura cost for people? Like, imagine, like, I don't know, like 4-5 bedroom house, rear extension, more basic, like, these 2 Velux windows and nothing too crazy, but still extremely nice. Modern kitchen and extended to the back, and new floors and beautiful, like low frame, thin frame windows, but not too crazy. So that's one thingy, like probably on a PD, no basements. And the second one, a little bit more crazy, like let's say for this South African couple where they have the green roof that they can step on and overlook their beautiful garden, and you had to like put the 500 kilograms of glass through their house. What is the difference in price? How much would it cost and how much time would it take? Basic project versus crazy project.
Very rough estimate,
roughly.
Right? So
I mean, ultimately, our pricing structure. A lot of architects will price based on a percentage of construction cost. I hate it. I've never from day one wanted to do that because, in my opinion, there's no incentive for a architect to then reduce build costs, value engineer the scheme. If their fee is locked into how much the cost of the project is, okay, well, why would they say, I can save you 50 grand here by doing X, Y, and Z, which means my fee gets cut by $5 grand. Like, well, why would they? Like, I've never been a fan of that. It's a good, useful yardstick for us in terms of how others might compare in terms of our packages. But we've always done a fixed price per section. So concept design is X. For a basic house extension that you were talking about, we might be 4 to 5 grand for that concept and planning phase. Building regs and DD might be 6 to 8 grand, something like that. We charge maybe 3 to 4 grand to run the tender process, and then it might be an hourly rate. We only do contract administration and site monitoring, which is overseeing the project as it's being progressed. We only do that on an hourly rate basis because there's so many variables in that process. It can vary massively depending on what type of contractor you got on board. Like if you've got a really, really bad contractor that has no middle management, it's the site foreman who's got Barry and his gang of builders, doing stuff. There's way more input from us. So it's going to be, I can't give a fixed fee for that phase because you could have them, or you could have a really well-drilled contractor that doesn't really need your input. He's very self-sufficient. And ultimately, there's less time input from us. So we just do that on an hourly rate basis. And that might be what do we charge now? £125 an hour, something like that through the site monitoring process.
So like a basic-ish, but still like heavily architectured, beautiful plan, entire process to get through a conceptual stage, through architectural plans, all the drawings for building control, engaging building control, securing planning application, and having like everything ready for the contractors. It's like roughly 17K, I would say, based on
and I think when we look at kind of the range of costs, when I compare it to a percentage on contract value, we've typically, and it's a massive range because it can vary so much, but we might be 5 to 12% of the contract value. but there's so many variables into that it's too difficult to kind of pinpoint exactly where our fee might be. We might also factor in some client difficulty factors into our pricing. If from day one we realize that the client is asking or just way more difficult than some, in terms of their expectations. We might add a bit of a multiplier on 1.2 times what we would normally charge, because we know there's going to be more time and back and forth of dealing with queries and satisfying their requirements and all this sort of stuff. So the pricing will be on a project by project basis. There's no real sort of one size fits all. But if you compare us to a one-man band, we're going to be more. We're probably going to be more like 2.5, 3 times somebody that is just on their own, because they don't have the overheads that we have. They can happily charge £40 an hour because it's just them. Whereas we have a team, we have overheads and obligations.
But it's not just that. I feel like the concepts, the ideas that are coming from you are different when compared to like a one-man band as well. You can't compare the end product as well.
We are specialists in residential architecture.
I'm just looking at my friend's house, for example, like through the window there, and they had to build their back extension twice because the first was like one-man band. They cost like, I don't know, 25k or something to do like a proper back extension, and it was a building controller came over and said, no, you have to put it down.
Safe.
It's not safe to use, so they had to do it twice, and now they spent like 40k.
That should never happen.
Yeah. And it's like, it looks like a one-man band job, right? It's like, it doesn't look like Aura. You can't compare. Yeah.
And, we've lost work because clients say we're too expensive. Most of the time they are comparing us to, a technician, a one person, show that can do it for way cheaper than we can. We just can't compete with that. If you compare us to, other comparable architectural practices out there, I think we are very good value for money, and I'd imagine we're probably lower than those other comparable architecture practices out there. But you get what you pay for ultimately.
Exactly.
There's been clients that have gone away and come back to us because the services they had elsewhere and the designs that they were getting elsewhere, were no good, and they've come back to us to work with us. So. It's always a challenge, and I think there's a massive, if you guys won't see it because you're not part of the sort of architecture sphere, but over the last 5-6 years there's a massive race to the bottom in terms of fees, and it's of no one's benefit at all. The RIBA and the ARB are trying to kind of counteract this. Even over the last 2 months there's been the new RIBA president has come out and basically said, because the term architect is a legal term, by the way. So in the UK, it's protected. I am not an architect. I cannot call myself an architect. We are a chartered architectural practice because I have RIBA-chartered architects within the business, but I cannot call myself an architect, and it's very tough to kind of...
Ben, every time you say RIBA, it makes me... Yeah, RIBA is funny to me because RIBA in Polish is a fish.
Oh, right. So the Fish Architecture School.
Fish Architecture School, yeah.
Yeah. So their president is basically trying to get the function protected, the function of an architect. So at the moment, the term architect is protected, but there's a big hoo-ha at the moment around getting the form and function protected, which basically means if you want to do any architectural work on your property, it has to be with a registered architect. So you have to be chartered as an architect to do the work. It strips out all of the technicians, the surveyors that take on some architectural work, all of those people that are undercutting pricing. And there was a time where an architect was very much kind of a revered sector and a profession. It's very commoditized now. It's very difficult to compete in that atmosphere.
So if that comes into like being, comes into place, let's say, like just in theory, does that mean that you wouldn't be able to do it yourself as a DIY because you would have to employ an architect to do an extension?
Yes, you would have to have somebody that is a chartered architect.
Okay.
But like conversely, like, when you do like a structural work, you need to employ structural engineer because they know what they're doing. If you have architects that are not architects doing architectural work, then you come up with like, with the loft extensions that look like dog shit. And
yeah, so
what,
right?
there is a lot of sense in it, because our veranda has had a roof done, and the angle of that roof, it's too flat.
Yeah, for the tile.
No, it's just the roof is very. What is it?
It's not
like?
a tiled roof, Ben. It's like a plastic transparent thingy on the roof.
It's too flat.
Okay.
It should be there's. I'm sure there is a
There's
certain
a minimum
percentage
pitch, depending.
of the how bend that roof. Should
Let's just
be.
say that it's like we are lucky
Minimum
that
angle.
in the UK it doesn't
It's
snow
really
that much.
flat, so when it snows,
Yeah.
it doesn't. Things that sit on that
Doesn't fall
roof
off
does
and-
not slide down.
Yeah.
Thank God it doesn't snow here, right?
Yeah.
So to your point, I think it's there is a lot. There is a lot of sense.
It makes sense.
in that,
Even if
yeah.
something is like designed by someone that is not an architect, you should have an architect stamp to
Some
say
sort
yes,
of
it's going to
I
work.
mean, I'm torn by the whole conversation because I am not an architect, as in, I cannot call myself an architect. Yet, I guarantee I am way more competent and experienced than most architects that, I've employed 50 plus architects in the last 8 years. Some of them that have gone through the RIBA process and, become qualified as a fully qualified architect. They've been working in industry for 3-4 years, whatever. Some of them don't know their arse from their elbow when it comes to how buildings are put together or housing is put together. And that will be, RIBA would say, well, it's you do your 7 years, then you specialize in certain sectors. I'm like, well, yes, but you should still know the general kind of technicalities of how cavity walls are put together and how a roof pitch sits on a wall plate on a internal block wall. It's that sort of stuff. I just think should be taught if you're an architect. But for me, the whole process getting to that stage is way too creative a process. I genuinely don't think from a technical perspective, most architects come out of that process with the technical knowledge and understanding or skill set or want or need to understand how things are put together. When I look back at the architects that I love, Frank Lloyd Wright and Calatrava and all these people, they are architectural engineers because they understand how the buildings are put together, they understand how they stand up structurally, yet they also have the architectural creativity to make it look amazing and create works of art. That for me should be what an architect has the capabilities of doing, not just the fluffy creative side of things that I just think. I lived with a couple of architects during uni that were studying at Cardiff Architecture School, which is very good, by the way. But I'd come into the kitchen a couple of days and they were drawing fruit bowls. And they were sketching fruit bowls as part of their uni course. I'm like, this isn't GCSE art year 9. This is a degree that you're doing and you're sketching fruit bowls. For me, I can understand wanting to get the creative juices flowing and having that. It is a part of the process that I'm not that skilled at. So the front end conceptual process for me is the bit I struggle with the most, and the interior design. I am way more technically, engineering minded. That's just how I work. But
that was my question actually. What's more of your baby? It sounds like it's an architecture.
It's the technical side of things. Yeah. The interior design stuff, I'm useless. I have that's why I have Gabby and interior designers in the business.
So you wouldn't like to draw some fruit bowls?
No, certainly wouldn't. No, that for me is literally GCSE.
But if someone wanted your architectural and design practice to design a bespoke fruit bowl, would you be able to do that?
I'd get one of the team to do it. Get one of the architects to do it. Yeah. Yeah, it's an area for me I'm definitely divided in that sort of protecting the form, because I know throughout my whole sort of career there are very, very talented technicians, technologists, players that can happily put a planning package together, a detailed design building regulation package together, that aren't qualified architects. But it's, you know, the whole space is changing with the Building Safety Act, and there's as a architectural practice, I think it's a good thing, because I think our pricing can be where it needs to be. And I think the perception, I think, from the outside world is that architects make a shit ton of money. It could not be further from the truth. Like, just being brutally honest with you, Aura made a loss last year. It's the first time they've ever made a loss. It's been
I'm
very,
asking my
very
architect
tough
to raise
year.
prices. I am asking my architect to raise prices. Like,
she's very reasonably priced.
very reasonably priced, but like, you know, I've got an architect that is like very skilled in planning, in architecture, a good, reliable, communication skills, top notch, 10 out of 10. When she says she'll do something, she'll always do something. The drawings she produces are amazing. All the applications, planning applications, they are successful. They are good. So it's quality. And now the competition, it forces the prices down so much that she cannot charge the amount of money that she should for the amount of time she spent learning those skills, in my opinion. As an example, me as a Wi-Fi consultant, when I'm being called on site by a client that struggled to make Wi-Fi work for 6 months, and they want to have like a top-notch consultant to come over, I'm 10 times more expensive than an architect.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy, isn't it?
For those 7 years and however much experience and knowledge, yeah.
It depends how you advertise yourself as well, how big your company is.
I feel the skills and knowledge, they are very similar. So in order to be like a great, dependable architect and a Wi-Fi consultant, you can compare these two when it comes to difficulty, when going through uni, through courses, through experience and stuff. But then the disparity in earnings is massive. So no, architects, they don't earn a lot, no.
I mean, it's one of those... you know, the architects used to be comparable to solicitors. You know, they could charge by the hour, they'd get paid really well, and you know, solicitors have done this, and architects have just gone downhill because it has become way more commoditized. And you know, part of that is the fact that, you know, anyone and their dog is getting involved. You know, whether it's a surveyor or, you know, because there isn't a protection there. But at the same time,
there should be a protection for solicitors' prices, though, because that's going out of control now.
Yeah.
Every time you mention solicitors, like I like feel from the inside that I want to go on a rant about about the price. I will let you guys, Ben. How much do I spend on splitting the lease for Mosley project? You know Mosley project, so that's how we met. That's how I first, like, you know, called out to you to help me out on one consultancy. That is, by the way, this is the best consultancy in the UK for the developers. If you guys are stuck with something and if you want to like speak with professionals that they've done it like, you know, 100 times, speak to Ben and Jack, please. It's amazing value. It's great.
Just brainstorm things.
Yes, it's great. It's the best.
Yeah, just ask for friendly advice again.
So how much do you think I'm spending on lease split of a single office split? Yeah, like, you know, the lease. I have one lease and 3 flats, right? And then
it's through a freeholder, so you have to bear that in mind as well.
Yeah, they're using like London solicitors.
Just a guess.
Surrender of the lease and creating 3 new leases. How much?
8 grand.
17 fucking grand.
17.
17.
That was our call as well. We just thought 10 would be just a top kind of.
I mean, it is ludicrous. Yeah,
it's madness. Right? They should be replaced by ChatGPT, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do with ChatGPT. You know,
but it's not legal yet, right? You need to have a stamp.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, even that process is bonkers. I've just had to have a conversation yesterday with one of our investors in our Muswell Hill scheme. He was actually the seller, and we managed to get vendor finance of a couple £100,000 at 0%, which was amazing. But because he's got a charge over the property, he then needs to give his approval to the new leases to sell the 9 flats. So, you know, every time that lease is needed to be approved for the new buyers, his solicitor wants to charge 500 quid plus VAT to basically review another solicitor's work and basically agree to sign it off. And like, that's 4.5 grand that is basically pissed against the wall, when it could just be the client saying, you know, our investor agreeing to it himself. Like, why does a solicitor need to be involved in that process?
Same like ILA, man. Same as ILA.
Ridiculous.
ILA for me is the same.
Oh yeah, independent legal advice. You know, getting that for PGs and whatnot.
Yeah, 10 times a year.
We found a new good company actually for that. If you want
sure, send them over. Well, we actually have a good company now as well, reasonable. Like, for the first time, I feel like it's not a total rip-off. It is still a rip-off and not required really, but it is required by the law. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there's lots of legal things in there that definitely get to you. but it's just part of the development process.
Right, so Ben, so if you were to start a creative career in property again, or if you know someone who would like to do that, would you choose a design, architecture, development, or perhaps something else? Would you do it? Would you do architecture, engineering architecture again, or would you perhaps take a different path?
So one of the businesses that we run that we haven't spoken about at the moment is XP Surveys. So that was set up 5 years ago, sort of out of frustration with the service.
God, I missed that from the intro, Ben. So sorry. I missed XP Surveys completely.
That's why I've thrown it in, just so it's we don't forget about it. No, but I think now I've grown out of love of property. Like it's been a tough 8 years. It's been an absolute roller coaster. What I've learned is that it's not necessarily the property stuff that I love. I mentioned earlier about loving being creative, loving building things. What I've learned is that I love building businesses. Like the business side of things for me is way more engaging and interesting than the property side of stuff now. So having grown XP Surveys, having grown Aura, having grown other businesses and understanding how businesses operate, XP Surveys is from a business model perspective and kind of to your question, given the knowledge that I have now, I wouldn't go into something I necessarily like as such. I would go into something that has a sustainable business model with really good margins. Because architecture does not have good margins.
You start to sound like Josh Keegan, man.
Josh Keegan, oh yeah, well I listen to his podcast regularly, so maybe it's worn off on me. But no, I completely get it. Like it's, I look at my wife who's just left, or she got made redundant on maternity leave, which is another thing. Oh. But ultimately,
is that illegal?
Technically not. No, so yeah. Anyway,
yeah, of course.
Anyway,
of course.
they yeah. There's a so they're a recruitment company, and recruitment companies, by kind of the nature of the industry, the business model, they are a 30-40% margin type business. It's easy to make money in that business. And I look at, when I'm speaking to my wife about what they were doing, I don't think their business, the business owners within that business did anything right from a business perspective. But they are in a business with a business model in a sector that has the margins that can accept that cater for a bit of stupidity when it comes to business. When you've got a slim margin type business model, you're having to do everything you possibly can to try and make it work. So people that are able to make that work in a very, very difficult business model sector, take that into a sector that does have good margins, that has growth potential and scalability, etc. And I think they will do really well. And that's where XP Surveys is going to go. Over the next couple of years, we're looking to grow that significantly. And a lot of the stuff we've done in that business, I've learned through Aura, I've learned through growing the other businesses. And now I'm learning more stuff around technology and growth and sales and marketing and raising finance for service-based businesses and this sort of stuff. And it's super exciting. So if I were to do something again, I'd be almost kind of, I wouldn't listen to my heart in terms of what I really want to, what I'm interested in. I would be a bit more strategic and find a business model that I think, is set up for success day one. You have to have a bit of interest in it, but fundamentally, if you're a business owner, business is what I like. So I could be selling chickens, and as long as I'm building and growing that business around it and understanding how that business might work, like that's the thing that interests me, not necessarily the chickens. If that makes sense. So yeah, I'd probably just find something that has a good, strong business model behind it.
So more like a service based rather than a long-term wealth building based?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, and I think having that fast cash flowing business that you can grow and scale and then invest, the profits from that service based business, I think is a great thing to do, and build that wealth alongside. So
assume that you've already built that service-based business. You have operational service-based business. What do you invest in? Do you invest in property? Do you invest in gold? Do you invest in crypto? Do you invest in, I don't know, top 100 US?
Yeah, I mean, I would split that out. You know, I'd have some funny money in crypto, you know, 2% of whatever, and just throw it in there and see what happens. You know, I'd put some cash in the FTSE, or you know, some stocks that just generate 8-10%, whatever it may be, quite consistently. You know, I'd spread it. You know, I'd spread it around. I still think bricks and mortar is, you know, has stood the test of time. We always, you know, we're gonna need more housing constantly. We're not getting anywhere near to building the figures that we need to sustain the UK. So I think bricks and mortar is a great place to put property.
Even though it's a shit show right now in the UK, still, if you invest in property over time, assuming that you are not losing too much money right now, it should work out.
Yeah, exactly. Over a longer time, and if you've got, you know, patient capital that's willing to wait, you know, slightly longer, you know, absolutely. But it's tough. You know, it's definitely over the last 15 years since I've been sort of full time in it. It's never been more difficult to be a property developer. And that probably started, you know, annoyingly, pretty much when we set up XP Property. Like the whole landscape in the UK has been super tough to navigate, and it's not getting any easier. So having those, you know, like I said earlier, having those service-based businesses to prop up the development business is, I think, a fundamental.
Yeah, so just like for the listeners that are starting up their careers, like that's what happened to us. So we started with the service-based business, then we started backing off from the service-based business to invest more in property. And we figured out very quickly that we are running out of cash very quickly, okay? Because like the returns, they are not as strong as they were years ago. The market doesn't cover for your fuck ups anymore. So you need to be spot on. If you're not, then you're losing tens of thousands, if not hundreds. So that's very risky. You have to have balls of steel, and most of it, you have to have some knowledge and experience, and still grow that fucking service-based business. Like don't ditch it too quickly.
That can be quite difficult. Like because we've had such a difficult year with Aura, for example, last year. In 2023, 2024, you know, I realistically did 4 hours a week in Aura, and it sustained itself, and I'd make, you know, 6 figures margins, and you know, it was a great business that served me really well personally, and that's you know, that is my personal life business. You know, the rest of it is kind of the stuff on top and the future. But last year I had to roll up my sleeves a lot more and get more stuck in to try and get it back on track. And that was difficult because we had so much other stuff going on. So XP Surveys is you know, massively growing. We had our biggest delivery pipeline with XP Property ever. So we've delivered, or are actively still delivering, 6 sites, 72 units across them, about £30 million in value. And, you know, my role in the business is the design and delivery side of things. So, you know, I'm the one heading the charge in that front, getting all of those sales over the line, getting the sites completed, you know, dealing with contractors issues and firefighting and stuff like that. So to then roll my sleeves up back in Aura was super challenging, to try and find the time to kind of give it the attention it needs. And we're still not out of the woods, to be honest. You know, it's still you know, it's picked up for sure, but it's nowhere near back to where it used to be.
Because man, like let's face it, like it's difficult to run a single business, right?
And you're involved in how many? 3?
XP Property, XP Surveys, Aura Architecture, and
Aura Social.
Yes, and then the social
housing portfolio.
Plus you do a freaking podcast, plus you're like a speaker at like a lot of different conferences, meetups and shit.
Yeah, we do a lot. Yeah, and that comes down to, like you were saying earlier, in terms of the capability or being, you know, learning the skill set of delegation and losing that control to a team. And ultimately, we can't do anything. And
I find it incredibly impressive, from technician to that kind of role, like to be able to
inspiring.
Do such a wide range of skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, and still there, man. Inspiring for all the youngsters out there that want to start their careers. Okay, so like a few finishing questions, because I appreciate we are like going over for like 1 hour plus now. What's the project that didn't go to plan but taught you the most?
I mean, there's been a few, I guess. From a development perspective, it's one that we're actively working on at the moment. You know, I think my skill set and my job role at the Berkeley Group was as a technical manager. So, you know, very much technically focused, solving problems, liaising with the external consultants, architects, engineers, you know, driving things forward from a design perspective. What I do lack is the sort of quantity surveying, project management type skill set. I've learned enough, and if it was my one job, I'd probably do a pretty good job of it. But fundamentally, with 6 projects on the go, we didn't set up, or we haven't set up, I think, our contracts well enough to now sort of manage the processes that we're in with some of the contractors on our sites. And that I think is my biggest takeaway. It's that front end, setting up a contract in a way that protects you should things go wrong or fall out of bed, or making sure it was, things like sectional completions. We phase a lot of our sites where we do a phase 1, a phase 2, get enhanced planning approvals, add value that way. If your contract isn't set up in a way where it allows for parts of the building to be handed over before the rest of the site, like it is on some of our sites, it can be very difficult contractually, and the contractor can have you by the balls to a certain degree, in terms of delaying things, knowing that it's going to be difficult to challenge those delays when there's a second phase of work that they've been instructed on, and drag things out. So I think my biggest learnings over the last 2 years has been, to make sure that you've got a quantity surveyor that is very proficient, understands what you are trying to achieve, and can create contracts that protect you. And I think basically we are very good at buying well. We are very good at adding value through the design process. There will be other developers out there that are going or have gone pop in the last 2 years because they haven't been able to add that value, and they've just relied on delivering a scheme and getting out the other side. And with the market where it is at the moment, the sales process being hugely delayed, build costs escalating, timeframes overrunning, we've been able to weather that storm because of the value that we've added through the process. And if we hadn't done that, then it probably would have been a different story. But it's a challenging time at the moment for all developers getting into development. So definitely make sure you're tuning into podcasts like this. You're tuning into our podcast. You're getting the consultancy that you need to make sure that you don't make the mistakes that we've done.
We will do them for you. Right? We will do them for you and share it.
Yeah. So nobody's perfect. You're constantly learning.
Come on, man. We are very close.
You two are the exception. Yeah.
I mean, like all 3 of us.
It's tough though. It really is. And I think people aspire to be property developers because they think there's loads of money in it, and they don't. That blinds them from the risks that they're taking and getting into.
The risks are massive. Like
on the positive side, though, you're doing so well, with all the businesses, and it's with everything going on, I think you're really battling through it, and I bet you've got a good plan forward, not just for this year, but for a few years to come. Yeah.
We've got a 5-year forecast of where we want to be, and size of projects we want to be working on, and all that sort of stuff. So it is exciting, but one step at a time.
Exactly, yeah. But do tell us what is the most exciting and like the nicest project you've done that you're the most proud of. Something that really stands out, not just from maybe your portfolio, but from every company you're involved in.
Yeah, I think when I think about that question, it goes back to my first ever property development, the one that I did at weekends and evenings. At that time, I had done a huge amount of building process, and technically I could understand how to build a house. There'll be architects watching this that think they are the be all and end all of the process. They are a minor part of the whole development life cycle. And that's, I think, what I learned in that project is I'd never raised money before. I might have been paying over the odds, but I didn't care because it got the job done and it worked. But I'd never gone through that process. I'd never understood about warranties. I'd never done a sales process, a refinance of a new build property. I've never split a title before. So I always look back on that one fondly, and as a development, financially, it was brilliant. When I look at the figures, I wish they could all be like this. I think it was like a 34% return on gross development value. So it was really, really successful.
That sounds fun, right? When you think about these numbers.
Yeah. So that one I learned a lot on.
Yeah. So if you were starting your business today, would you decide to build it in the UK, or would you rather just go somewhere else, find a tax haven place, and would you just do it there?
If I knew what I knew now, and I was 15 years younger, I'd be in Dubai. I would. I think I'd go where there are opportunities, where there is the whole kind of the ethos, or it's where people go there to build their dreams, to try to be successful. There is an aura of that mentality. You're around people that are high performing individuals that want to do the best they can do, that want to succeed, and it's celebrated. In the UK, it's a shit show. The whole sort of dynamic and the market, the government in terms of what they're doing, the socio-economic kind of position that we're in as a country, I genuinely am nervous. It makes me sad. And there's a whole, I think, mentality that I don't know where it's born from, envy, jealousy, whatever it may be, but people don't want you to succeed. It kills me that people think that running a business is easy, that we make loads of money, that we must be doing something dodgy. And I've employed, I don't know how many people I've employed now, probably 50 plus people over the last sort of 7-8 years. Like, I get so much pride out of, I almost put them first for the most of the time. They are the first people to get paid in all of our businesses. We're the last people to get paid. We're the ones taking all the risk. I think employees are protected way too much. I think that there's not enough instigation in small businesses from the government to make it worthwhile. I think it's all wrong at the moment, and I am genuinely nervous around the next 4 or 5 years of how things are going to play out. So if I was 15 years younger, I would, and knew what I knew now about businesses, I'd go somewhere where the setup and the surroundings are there for you to just smash it. And that's not the UK.
More time to do the work rather than fight all the compliance and stuff.
Yes, it does feel like a fight.
Very nice in Dubai.
It is a fight. Yeah, it's like walking through treacle. That's how I've described it recently. Like, everything is slow.
I have heard some of the opinions about Dubai that it can, at some point, it might get oversaturated.
Yeah.
What's your?
The property, no matter where you are in the world, there will still always be property cycles. At the moment, Dubai over the last 3-4 years has absolutely smashed it. 75% growth in the last 3 years or something ridiculous.
Crazy, isn't it? It's
insane. So if you can catch that tailwind, happy days.
That's what I mean. The timing is important, right? If you're too late,
it is. But I think that is a mentality that I think people can very, very easily get sucked into. But what normally happens, there's always going to be difficulties, right? And what I would rather take the step and move forward than not take the step, thinking, oh, maybe we're at the peak, maybe. And then 5 years later, oh fuck, I missed out there. It's continued to go up, and it's continued. There's always, and if you can't. Nobody can time the market to perfection. There is a lot of luck involved in that process. Hopefully you're on the right side of luck in that scenario. But you've just got to do what you can do to keep these ticking along. And if you see an opportunity, take it.
That is so true. Well, maybe next time we can come along to Dubai if you've done your holiday.
You think, but would you go like central Dubai or outskirts of Dubai yourself with your family?
We were on the Palm. It was lovely, really nice, just down the road from the Atlantis hotel. Yeah, I'd probably stay there again. I know a lot of people live downtown, and I went to a lot of meetings downtown where the Burj Khalifa is, and the big Dubai Mall and the fountains and all that sort of stuff. There's now loads of different neighborhoods. I went to a specific neighborhood to meet the guy that runs his maintenance business in Clapham. lots of expats in that area. Very well set up, lots of greenery, lots of gyms, shopping malls, schools, sports facilities, that type of stuff. I barely scratched the surface really of what's out there. So yeah, I'd have to do some research to really know where I want to be. But I really enjoyed where we were as a holiday destination. It was great.
Okay, let's have the chat offline about your holiday destination in Dubai. Like, send over some links where you visited. We might follow into your footsteps to experience that ourselves as well, because we've never been.
Yeah,
and
I did.
We are losing a lot of friends from the UK permanently relocating to Dubai right now. So
nice. When I mentioned where we were going, I probably had 5 or 6 friends say, "Oh, I've stayed there. It's amazing." So it does seem to be quite a popular place that we went to, and we got a really good deal with Trail Finders. It was good. They sort of sorted it out for. Well, I say we, my wife, sorted that all out. But it was lovely. Yeah.
That's good to know.
Great.
Okay, so I think we'll wrap it up, right? So, Ben, as always, thank you so much for donating your time. It's absolutely amazing to have you here. Like, every time, it puts a massive smile on my face, and our audience love you. And like your episodes and Jack's episodes, they are always like a little bit more popular than, episodes without you or Jack. So I appreciate it. You help us grow. I hope that we will be able to do the same for you as well. So we are like always recommending your services and recommending you as people, because you are like one of the very few people that we know in the industry that are genuinely trustworthy and amazing to work with. So thank you very much, Ben. It's amazing.
Thank you. And, you guys are doing a fantastic job. So keep it up. And hopefully you'll see the growth of your podcast go. There's lots of useful information and, entertainment. So, keep it up.
Thank you, Ben.
Great. Thanks.
Love you.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye.